Jason Statham wasn't always a big star. If Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels had been a global hit, Jason's career would have taken off much faster, but the film performed modestly in Western theaters. Snatch, which starred Brad Pitt, did better. However, with Pitt and so many other actors in the spotlight, Jason's talent flew under the radar. As a result, he faded into the background, consistently flopping with all his new films. Today, Jason's a major star, but that only became possible thanks to The Transporter. That action film turned him into a star and kept his career alive when he was close to slipping into B-movie territory. The most surprising thing about this franchise is that it was never particularly successful at the box office. Some of its films even flopped. Today, let's talk about the Transporter franchise, which is currently on hiatus but might return someday. The idea for The Transporter came from Luc Besson and screenwriter Robert Mark Kamen. They were inspired by BMW's The Hire commercials, where a driver, played by Clive Owen, transports clients while evading pursuers in a flashy car. These videos, directed by famous filmmakers like David Fincher and John Woo, went viral at the time. Besson and Kamen thought it'd be cool to turn the concept into a feature film at their EuropaCorp production company. They cast the driver before the script was even written. Kamen had just seen The One with Jet Li, but it wasn't Jet who caught his attention. It was the guy running in the background, Jason Statham. Kamen felt the lead needed to look tough, like someone whose face says, "I'll knock you out," and that's exactly what he saw in Jason. Besson agreed and quickly whipped up a draft of the script, which Kamen later polished. Statham didn't turn down the offer. He didn't have many at the time anyway. Still, he managed to land the biggest paycheck of his career at that point, $750,000. Even though Jason already knew some variations of over-the-shoulder throws, the producer wanted him to master the spinning kick. They brought in a professional trainer to work with him for 3 months. The first film had 2 directors, Louis Leterrier, making his directorial debut, and Corey Yuen, who had worked on a ton of movies with Jackie Chan and Jet Li. Yuen is also known for introducing the world to Jean-Claude Van Damme, having directed No Retreat, No Surrender, the film that launched Van Damme's fame. Yuen handled the fight scenes in The Transporter, while Leterrier took charge of the car chases. Besson and Kamen originally wanted to make The Transporter gay. They thought it'd help set the movie apart from other action franchises. But within the first few days of production, they suddenly changed their minds and quickly cut all references to the character's sexuality from the script. Just to be safe, and in case anything was left in, they added a love scene between Jason Statham and Shu-Chi. The film ran into major problems in post-production. The Transporter was originally shot with an R rating in mind, but after poor test screenings, producers offered a re-edit to bring it down to a PG-13. The fight scenes took the biggest hit. Some were cut entirely. In the end, the movie lost 15 minutes thanks to the studio's interference. The action flick hit theaters at the end of 2002. 20th Century Fox, which had picked up the distribution rights, didn't hold back on promotion and gave the $20 million French film a marketing budget equal to its production cost. But it didn't help much. The Transporter debuted in 4th place and dropped to 6th the following week. It made just $43 million worldwide. Many blamed the weak numbers on Jason Statham's face, not literally, but because he was still unknown to most people. The sequel Luc Besson had planned was quickly scrapped, and The Transporter was quietly forgotten. But a few months later, everything changed when the film hit home video and DVD. Much like Pitch Black, which later led to The Chronicles of Riddick, The Transporter became a big hit in the home market. Reportedly, in the US alone, video sales brought in twice as much revenue as the theatrical run. In other words, the home release covered all production and marketing costs. Everything earned in theaters was pure profit. The film became so popular that Michael Mann included a funny nod to The Transporter in his movie Collateral, giving Jason Statham a cameo where he hands Tom Cruise's character a bag and vanishes without explanation. To boost its appeal with American audiences, the second film was shot in the US. Corey Yuen stepped down, and Louis Leterrier directed it solo. That's probably why Transporter 2 lacked the same well-crafted fight scenes. After filming Transporter 2, Jason repeatedly criticized the producers in interviews. According to him, when the sequel was greenlit, he and the director spent a lot of time trying to convince the studio to let them make it R-rated. But no matter how hard they pushed, the studio execs wouldn't budge. Compared to the first film, the sequel's budget jumped by $10 million. A bunch of companies jumped on board, eager to get their brands on screen. Transporter 2 turned into a mini James Bond movie with product placement everywhere. The filmmakers said Audi gave them the most trouble. One of the cars they provided wouldn't even start on the very first day of shooting. Not even the mechanics they called in could fix it. In the end, they just crashed the car during filming. Realizing that the Transporter could be his franchise, Jason refused to use stunt doubles and did almost all the dangerous scenes himself. Later, he admitted he was a little too dumb back then and thought real men had to do everything on their own. Because of that, he came close to getting seriously hurt several times, but luckily, nothing major happened. The sequel debuted at number 1 at the box office, knocking the 40-year-old version out of the top spot. With a $32 million budget, the movie pulled in $85 million worldwide. The studio quickly announced the third film, but the budget for it was trimmed slightly to $30 million. There's no solid info about how well Transporter 2 did on video, which might explain the cut. Director Louis Leterrier's career took off after Transporter 2. He went on to direct The Incredible Hulk. Luc Besson brought in Olivier Megaton to replace him. After Transporter 3, the editing and camera work became a big talking point, since Megaton's style looked like he had been shot and cut by a drunk epileptic. He really took that style to the next level with Taken 3. Megaton wanted to change up the Transporter a bit. He said he was aiming for something between a Bond movie and Die Hard. He felt the series lacked its own identity and wanted to fix that. Transporter 3 hit theaters in 2008 and did even better than the first two films. With a $30 million budget, it grossed $109 million. But US box office numbers took a noticeable dip, which led to something unusual. Jason Statham had originally signed on for 3 films, but his pay didn't increase much from movie to movie. That probably didn't sit well with him. A 4th film was announced, not as quickly as the 3rd, and Jason was set to return, with a planned release in 2011. Statham has said he ranks Transporter 2 as the best, followed by the first, and puts the 3rd in last place. That might have influenced his next move. He asked for $11 million to do the 4th film. At the time, his career was blowing up. He signed on for The Mechanic, which had a much bigger budget than any Transporter movie. A Crank sequel was in the works, and Sylvester Stallone had cast him in The Expendables. So yeah, Jason could afford to play hardball. But Luc Besson didn't like it. Since the franchise wasn't pulling huge profits, they scrapped the film and wished Jason good luck. Instead of another movie, the producers turned to TV. A series premiered in 2012. It started off rough, but TNT usually gives its shows a chance, so Transporter got renewed for a second season. Still, ratings dropped below 1 million viewers, and the network had to pull the plug. Shows like Major Crimes and Falling Skies, which aired at the same time, were pulling in 4 and 2.5 million viewers respectively. That's when the studio decided to return to the big screen with a soft reboot. The new movie was called The Transporter Refueled. It was a co-production between Luc Besson and a Chinese studio. At the Cannes Film Festival, they announced a new trilogy focused on a younger Transporter, which plans to shoot the sequel in Hong Kong. The director was Camille Delamare, who had previously made Brick Mansions, a remake of District 13 starring Paul Walker. Ed Skrein was cast in the lead and left Game of Thrones for the opportunity. The budget was originally set around $25 million, but post-production ran into issues. No one liked the new Transporter, and the studio tried to fix it. As usual, reshoots didn't help much, and the movie went through multiple release delays. It was first set for early 2015, then pushed to summer, and finally released in September 2015. The US opening wasn't terrible, but it was the weakest in the series. It opened in 4th place and dropped to 19th just a week later. Simply put, it flopped in the States, despite the modest budget. Worse yet, the Chinese box office, where the film was expected to do well, only brought in $18 million. If you don't count marketing, the Transporter Refueled made about $72 million globally, which might have covered costs, but the advertising budget likely erased any profit. The film's weak performance in both the US and China convinced the studio to pull the plug on the franchise. All future plans were cancelled, and Ed Skrein was shown the door. Thankfully, it didn't hurt his career. He'd since had solid supporting roles in major Hollywood projects: Rebel Moon, Alita Battle Angel, and before that, the first Deadpool. So no real regrets about leaving Game of Thrones. Still, he never reached Jason Statham level success. Every once in a while, rumors pop up that the studio wants to bring the Transporter back, but Jason's career is hotter than ever, and other Transporter film probably isn't on his radar. Without him, the studio likely won't move forward, so it looks like Frank Martin won't be getting behind the wheel anytime soon. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned.